Legends and Super Legends, it's time to roll. Light is just coming out. It's the 650 something. It's probably 652. My brother and I are rolling out. Let's do this, man. Let's go. All right. Yeah, beautiful morning. We're gonna go up and try to pick up Team RR. You guys can actually see us better. You can see the days are changing. We got more light at 6:52 or whatever it is. So
on this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rode into the woodlands. We picked up Team RR. After that, we headed down Research Forest. We went on Honea Egypt Road, cut through the Grand Lake estates there to Keenan Cutoff. On Keenan Cutoff, we went to 149, then Spring Branch Road to Gary. We rode with them. We filmed all the way until we got to the end of Spring Branch Road. Then we turned off the camera. Paul and I continued on our own, and we went down 1486 to Magnolia there. We took Old Hempstead Road back there. That's all off camera. To a road called Hager Road, and we cut back. There's a lot of farm country, so you can see it's very flat back there, but we cut across 290 there, took Hagar to Roberts Road. We got on 2920 and rode up past Rose Hill towards the Spring Creek Park area, where we filmed in the Spring Creek Park there, and then wrapped up the ride by taking the back way on Zion Road that we used to take, went through Burroughs Park. We hope you all will enjoy the clips that we got for you.
Branch Road, I think that's where we're going.
I like your new helmet, man. I like your helmet.
Thank you. That's the Proton.
Yeah. Nice looking.
They only buys it when the other one falls apart.
That's Jerry.
I like it, man.
All the innards and everything falls apart. That's why. Oh my God.
Hello. I saw you were riding, so how you doing?
Nice, all right.
Oh, look at this guy.
Randy.
Randy.
Randy on the left.
Good morning, folks.
Yeah, man. We have Randy is here.
The way.
So you guys show up 5 minutes late and you had no worries that we'd still be talking?
Oh, we're not worried.
We knew it.
That's Bob. He said we showed up 5 minutes late, no worries, us to be talking. We intentionally show up 5 minutes late.
Where's Mark?
When I was stand for 5 minutes in the
Randy,
parking lot.
what did we do to deserve your presence this morning, my brother?
You'll save it?
My guilty conscience and the best of me.
All right, guys, let's do
I've
this.
been way too much fair weather rider.
Okay. Where's Mark this morning?
He's not making it.
No?
Go out.
Okay.
We got Honea.
Yeah.
So Scott had put out the map the night before, and I studied it. He's going to give it a course.
Okay.
This is about 69 miles. So we're going to go out Honea, Egypt. We're going to turn left on Keenan Cutoff. Then we're going to take Spring Branch across to and ultimately follow those back roads around to the Shell station at 105 and 1486. Hey, Dan. From there, we're going to head down 1486. If you want to cut it short and keep it under 50, then you can turn left on Jackson. If you want to keep on going, we're going to go south on 1486 to Magnolia. Then we'll do that loop through, there's a neighborhood, I can't remember.
Old Hempstead Road.
Old Hempstead Road, thank you. And we'll follow that around, then we'll head south on Joseph, and we'll follow ultimately Nickel Sawmill back to 1488 and then home. That's about 69 miles.
Okay.
I will be leading the Jackson Road turn-off crew.
Then
Let's go.
I will be even lazier and I will draft on you.
I'm not sure who said that. He said he'd be leading the Jackson Road turn-off crew. Let's see if we get him
Jerry's going to go short too, so he's
on film. I had studied the map the night before and early in the morning just to make myself very familiar with the major turns on the route. We know the area, but I want to just get the streets down. because if they changed their mind, we wanted to make sure we did not, detour, because we needed to get the requisite hours in that we like to do on Saturday. And it worked out the same way this week. They cut it short. We continued, the two of us, and we ended up Spring Creek Park, and we used the picture we took for the thumbnail for this video. That's the plan, anyway, as I narrate here.
Clear.
You can see me up the road. I'm egging them on because they were like, somebody else was coming. They were like, oh well, somebody else is coming. It was like they didn't want to leave, and so you'll hear me mention that to Paul. So I kind of roll ahead to get them out of the parking lot. It's time to go. That's the reason we come around 7:35. So even if we miss them, then we have to chase, at least if we know the route. Since we knew the route, we try to come around. We get there around 7:30, and then we don't want to stand in the parking lot, so we loop around for a few minutes. And we stay close to how they normally exit, so if they do leave, we can see them. But we like to get there 7:30-ish, like 7:32, 7:33, something like that. Because there's a 5-minute buffer that they have for those who are running behind. I'm just spinning up the road. I'm over 100 RPM, and Jerry will ride up to me and say, nice sprint you got going there. I knew what he meant. I tell him, man, it's time to go. You hear me tell him about what most comment about training time being precious. It's right here.
Riding time. Got that from Mo. Mo said riding time is precious.
So yeah, Jerry had pulled up. He said, nice sprint you got. I said, I want to keep moving. That's what we're talking about.
Keep your fingers maybe behind.
He tells me his hands are cold. You can see it's 6 Celsius. That translates to about, let's see, 40 Fahrenheit, something like that. So it's cold. It's like 45, probably 45 Fahrenheit. It's colder than he thought. And even Paul would tell me he can see goose pimples on Jerry's leg.
You're ready to start chatting again. We can talk and ride.
Yep.
That's telling Paul we can talk and ride. It was time to go.
I'm still filming.
Okay, that's cool. No worries.
I think when we reached the
So when we started, it was closer to 10 Celsius,
All the way to
I believe. And then as we approached north, it got colder.
If you want to keep it on, that's fine.
So it's about 44 Fahrenheit.
on the Jerry's leg.
Yeah, it's cold. He admitted his
That's what
hands
Paul
cold.
just said. He saw goose people on Jerry last year. Yeah, Jerry just told me he's cold. And he's got arm warmers on, but that jersey doesn't look very heavy. So I believe he has a base layer. So it never really warmed up as was forecasted. And so quite a few, and Jerry said he was tired. He said he was tired today, so he's doing a shorter ride than he normally does, so he can rest. So he's just riding to kind of stay loose. So I rode up and told him, I was telling Paul that he's got his other bike. He's got this Cervelo S5.
Hey, Jerry. Someone said you're going short. Is that a true statement?
Maybe you've been doing a little too much.
Jerry says he's tired.
Okay. Say he feels a little tired.
Okay.
Once you start to ride,
You have to listen to your body.
What is the short for
Jerry rides
That's what I had last
sometimes on his biggest weeks up to 30-something hours when he has the time. His consistent training exceeds, I believe, 20 hours a week. You know, he's been doing that for years, so he knows how to listen to himself. So other than training, there are other things that wear you out. So there are other factors that stress the body. So he's decided that today he's going to ride easily and short. So when we start the ride harder later, you will see he does not take part. He just sits in the back. So you have to have the discipline that he displays on this ride. He knows he can go fast, but he's tired. So what's the point? So his plan today is to just stay loose. Sit in, don't pull, and don't go harder than his probably endurance zone. So he doesn't really care what this group does today. He just came to ride to have some company, and he's not going to overexert himself. Our plan with riding with this group is that we don't stop. There's too many frequent stops unnecessarily, and so you will see that when they start hesitating, I will go to the front and sit there and just keep the pace steady so we can keep moving, because that's the way we ride. We want to cover 6.5, 7 hours quickly instead of sitting around stopping at corners or whatever. So even when we're with them, we want to keep moving, and you will see that today. I mean, they don't really know what we're doing. Everybody's got a different plan, and that's fine. But the goal here is keep the group pace going. And I'm going to title this Group Pace. So you can be a group of one or more. Decide what pace you're going to hold and hold it, and only stop when necessary. Don't just be stopping frequently, because you end up wasting your elapsed time to the point where it far exceeds your moving time. Try to keep them close.
That was a great shot, huh? Did you see him? Yeah, he was standing there where we usually go pee.
Yeah, Paul was telling me that Greg Schott has joined the group. He was standing on that road, Research Forest, that we just turned off. This is Egypt Lane in the Woodlands, and this is the parking lot that connects there as well. And he was standing there waiting for the group. I did not notice him. I was focused on just riding. The guy on the right with the red jersey is a friend of a gentleman that rides with us a lot called Team Vibrock. His name is Mike. We have a lot of Mikes in the group, so we give everybody different names. Some of them designate, like the other Mike we have here is Mike S5, because that's how he designates himself on the GroupMe app. So this other Mike, I usually refer to him when I talk to Paul as Mike with the gravel bike, because Mike, he comes out with a gravel bike often. He's into that, but today he's riding his road bike. It's a titanium frame. So when I'm talking to Paul Ilonga and I want to distinguish which Mike I'm referring to, I just say Mike with the gravel bike.
That helmet fits Jerry very well.
Yeah.
Paul's talking about Jerry's new helmet. Jerry told us that the other helmet had fallen apart. Jerry says he only buys stuff when the helmet falls apart, when it falls apart.
Really?
So
That's how they met. He's a swimmer.
I was telling Paul about Jerry's wife. She's a former world-class triathlete.
She's like #1 in the world.
And she was very accomplished. She's no longer doing that at this point.
You got a spare battery, so you do what you got. You do your thing.
So when the weather is cool like this, our battery does not last as long. That's why I just told Paul, I said I brought the spare battery, so don't worry about conserving battery. Just do whatever you think is important that you want to display or film or whatever, so he could relax and just focus on filming.
Yeah.
we're talking about just how I started the morning.
5:35 the alarm. Everything was ready and laid out, so I didn't have to do anything. Like my hands feel perfect. I couldn't do it.
Green up. We're off. I missed my clip in, so I put my foot in there and then click it back in. You should be able to do that. It's just second nature. I could tell it hadn't popped in, because you don't want to put a lot of force on it when it's not clipped in properly. It can spin and smack you in the shin.
This is the road.
Yeah.
Came over.
Yeah.
Then I said, how do you know all these roads? I read.
Yep.
There's no point to it.
Yeah.
So we're going Grand Lakes Estates, you know.
Yeah.
We're talking about the course as we roll out with our warm-up.
Jerry rolled up to me on the research work and said, you got that sprint going. I'm spinning because of the sprint. Jerry does not push high cadence. He's sitting up here and working.
Yep.
He thought I was sprinting. I'm not sprinting. Yeah, cadence was high. I had to get out of there, the door waiting. My guest 5 showed up. Oh, somebody else coming. So we're supposed to stay here and talk?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep.
That's the reason he's coming at this time. Because you all sit around.
They were talking about Mike
You don't want to sit.
S5. He lives right across from Crust Pizza, across Research
I
Forest.
know the route.
He intentionally
Out here, we'll
comes
catch
at
up.
that point so that he knows they're ready to roll. There's no point warming up, then coming and staying around for 5 minutes. So when we get up there, we're ready to roll. So sometimes when they're not ready, we just continue to spin and do loops. Some people do loops in the parking lot, just to keep the little gear rolling, keep your body rolling. Keep yourself warm.
Right? And or take their
That sometimes makes me think, it's like, wow, you've been doing this for some time.
Bank on it being warmer later. You gotta be comfortable.
Yeah, what we're talking about is regardless of how long you've been cycling,
Because by the
you
time
can
the good weather
depend
comes
on.
around, your body already exhausted all the energy.
Yeah, what Paul is saying is if you know it's gonna be warmer, say 3 hours after you start riding, you can't dress for 3 hours later. You're gonna be cold now. You need to dress for that, and you can shed. That's why you want to wear breathable stuff. So a lot of times you don't have to take them off unless the temperature really has a drastic swing. But I'd much rather be warm now than dress lightly and be cold for several hours. If it's a short period where it's going to warm up within 30 minutes to an hour, fine, you can brave it, but still, I'd much rather be warm and then warm early and pull things off if it gets too hot, too uncomfortable. So I dress for now and then consider, okay, what's going to happen later in my choice of garments. And then I pick more breathable garments, and I pick things that are easy to shed.
Coming out of his nose already, he's cold.
So Lulo is what we're talking about. Lulo's already cold. He's already he's wearing shorts, and I guess a lot of people expected us to get in the 60s quickly. We never got in the 60s. So I went outside. I could feel how the air was chilly and all of that. I could tell. I said, nah. And then the wind's coming from the north. And I was like, you know what? If it does warm up, I'm going to wear the thermal jersey because it breathes really well. And I can always shed later. So we called it right. My gloves are double lined. I have a liner in there, and then I have those blue gloves over it, so my hands are nice and comfortable. And Jerry's wearing fingerless gloves, and the first thing he said to me was, my hands are cold. So he thought it was going to be much warmer, it was going to feel warmer. That's why you have to check the wind direction and just the dryness in the air, or all of that's a factor. So we have dry, cold air this morning. So it stayed 6C for the better part of the entire time we rode with them. And we barely got around maybe 15 Celsius at the end of our ride, which was around probably 1 p.m. or so. And that's many hours from now, like 5 hours from now. So So you can't dress for 5 hours later. You have to dress for the temperature that will be going on most of your ride. I stay on the edge here. I back off so I can see my line. I don't want to like to ride on those ridges. They're rougher in certain areas than others. But now we've hit the open road where you have fewer intersections. We get to ride. So no matter how long you've been riding, you can miss it sometimes. And so Jerry missed it today. It happens. So don't get complacent. You get your routine developed and stick with it. I don't guess. I get out there and get as close as I can. It's never going to be perfect, but most of the time you will be close if you just take a little bit of extra time to determine what the weather is doing or going to do. The forecast helps, but it's not everything. You got to step outside, see what's going on. A few weeks ago, there was no rain forecast that we got out, and the roads were misty and wet. We got dirty. So they can mess up too. You guys know that. The weather people do their best, but it's not perfect. So the key is to have breathable fabrics. You see the back of my shoe covers has Paul lights. Those are Paul lights hitting the back of my shoe covers. That gray is a reflective band that lights up when light hits it. The bag on my bike is that Silka, what they call the Silka Premier Roll, and I did a review of it, and a few people have put comments that some people had said it came loose and flipped over, so you'd have to go out of your way for that thing to come loose. So obviously they didn't attach it properly, or they're making something up. That thing's been sitting on this bike for months, since I did the review. I've had no occasion to use it yet. It's just there. You set it and you forget it, and it just works. The attachment system has 3 attachment points, so I'm not sure how it came loose, unless it was poorly attached. You attach it properly, it stays in place. I like it because it's out of the way. We're going down the hill here. Our speed's going to pick up. I'm looking at my mirror. When you see me look down, my rear view mirror, I use that a lot. I look to make sure the road's clear, then I move over. And all I got to do is look down, just glance down. I'm opening up my torso area to catch more wind, so I don't have to use my brakes. Sometimes I stick my knee to the side, catch more wind. It slows you down. What I'm telling Paul is that Randy is riding next to Jerry, catching all this wind. That's what wears him out. You know, Jerry can do that, but it's kind of like you don't want to be sitting in the wind chatting with a very experienced rider who's got, I'm just gazillion kilometers in his legs. That's not the person you want to chat with. Okay, now he's moved up, which is smart. Paul said Rick ran off the road. I didn't see him because he's behind Paul. When we got in that corner, I think he was a little concerned about the ridges or something happened, but he ran off the road a little bit, but he's okay. Rick is the guy with the light green jersey. I'm going to point it out later because he makes a move on Spring Branch Road, and I have to tell Paul to just stay cool and stay steady, because you have to be careful who you go with. Because some riders make what we call suicidal moves, where they empty the tank and then they can't go when it's really time to go. So I'll walk you all through that. So you got to be careful when you expend your energy, and you got to know who you follow. This is Honea, Egypt Road. We're headed north, one of our favorite roads in the area. There's something about this road, it's just like an old friend. The open road. Bob's done pulling. He had to go back in the line because cars were coming. He didn't want to be out there. Look at Randy. Randy's going to blow his nose, go all the way across, and there's a car coming the other way. Somebody said, "Car, Randy," and then he comes back. And he did that because he didn't want the wind to blow anything onto the other riders in the group. He didn't really need to go way to the edge of the road on that side of the road. He could have gone to the middle and just blew his nose in that direction. He would have been fine. But that's the reason he did that, out of consideration for the other members in the group. The key is to make sure you know which direction the wind is blowing, and blow your nose in the direction the wind is blowing, and making sure it's away from your partners, because the wind will carry it. You don't want to blow your nose into the wind and it will spray right on you. A lot of times we'll put our head down in a direction of where you can just make a direct shot to the ground and you don't have to impact anybody. Especially this time of year, your nose runs, your nasal cavity gets that cold air in there. Things run, so you periodically have to blow your nose.
Car back.
Jerry's shaking his hand, look like it's getting numb. I'm not sure what's going on there. His bike looks like it fits in pretty well, so maybe something's off with the placement of his levers or something. That is his other bike, and I don't know if he rides it as frequently as the other one. You will watch me pedal, then soft pedal or stop. I do that in anticipation of what the riders in front of me are doing, so that the rider behind me does not have to react to anything. So when I soft pedal or stop pedaling, I'm still rolling, but I'm not stopping, I'm not braking. That way I maintain the same following distance based on what they're doing. This part of the road, there is no edge to ride on, but it's not heavily graded and rough on where we're riding now as the other corners we've been through. The road is slightly up. It says 1%. It's slightly up. So the car back call should just let you know that it's not the time to pull off, because car is back, he might be coming around. And if you are going to pull off the front, look behind, make sure he's not coming around. I'm riding the edge here using my hips. So much smoother there. We're turning left here. This is Grand Lake Estates. Now we're gonna be turning in the wrong gate because the other one's closed. This is the exit gate and there's a car coming. So Scott jumps to the right. And the guy comes out.
Get through, get through, get through.
And so now they can go. I'm all the way on the other side. I went around to the right, the correct gate, and came back through that little opening to come in. So we don't have the code for that gate. So if this one's open, we just sneak in. But they didn't expect a car to be coming through there. They should have probably, since the gate was opening, you know. It stands open for a bit after a car has gone through. That's Rick on the right with that light green jersey that I was talking about that will make a move in Spring Branch that I'll walk you all through. He makes a move, and after that, when we catch up to him, he has nothing left. He's cooked. And I don't see him again after that. We ride off. I mean, we don't stop with the group this week. We continue on the highway, and then we just go ahead and go and finish Scott's ride. They catch up with us for a little bit, and then they change the route afterwards. But we just keep moving. You will hear Rick say, "You guys look like a team."
Teammates. Team Veloharmony.
So I told him, "Yeah, we are Team Veloharmony." He said, "We look like teammates." I said, "We are." So my goal here is to keep the group moving. There's a tendency in this group to just like have a hiatus. And so I'm just rolling through, making sure. And I think when Bob slows down, I go to the front. When the road goes up, Bob has a tendency to slow down. I don't know if it's psychological, but he keeps downshifting. At some point, pick a gear and ride it.
Perseverance ride. Yeah. Now, you guys look that hill, my legs just shut down. But for the next 20 miles, I took everything I got just to go about 12 or 13 miles an hour.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just completely shot.
Is that right?
Well, fortunately, there's a lot of wind in my face, so that helped.
I think they're talking about last week's ride. I'm not sure what part of the ride they're talking about. That's Rick chatting with Scott. Rick is the guy who threw up many years ago on one of our rides because he overexerted himself. So with that history, when he makes a move, I don't go with him because he's not aware of his limitations and his fitness level. It's not where it should be for the kind of moves that he makes. So he rides over his head and then he just blows the engine. And it blows in a short while. So knowing that, when he makes a move on Spring Branch, Paul starts to go, and I told him, "Steady she go." You will hear me say that, and we go ahead and just temper our efforts and wait. And it turns out that was the right move. If I'm going to go with somebody, they need to be able to work when we get going. I don't want to go with them and do all the work. I moved to the front because Bob kept slowing down as the road went up. And I want to keep this group moving. If Paul and I were riding solo, this is about what we'd be doing. My foot just came out of there. I'm not sure what happened, but I think I may have twisted it a little bit. Sometimes with these shoe covers, they get stuck in there, and if they don't feel right, I try to wiggle my foot. And the clipless pedals, any movement to the side can dislodge it. It's designed for that, so that if you ever fall or whatever, you disengage from the bike. But I put it back in, it seemed to be fine. I think I may have reached down and adjusted it later or something, but I didn't have any problems after that. So that's Rick on the left with the green behind Bob. This is Bob here in the chartreuse. He's chatting with Scott. We're probably talking about last week's ride. Rick was the guy who joined us when he was headed eastbound. Westbound. We were headed east on 1488. The road goes up. I drop my gearing and keep my cadence up because we're going. It's very windy. My effort level is going up. I'm right at sweet spot. And on Saturday when we're really working, I try to get into zone 4, get my body adapted to long efforts in that zone. The speed bumps are pretty comfortable. What I do, I don't stand. I just put my weight on the pedal. They may look like I'm sitting, but I'm not. I transfer my weight to my feet. That 1 second where I stop. The temperature went up to 7 Celsius. So it's right at 45 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see the roads going up. I stand so I don't have to downshift. Keep the gear rolling. Keep the impetus. When you're riding, you can tell. When you start to slow down, you got to decide. Do I downshift? Do I push harder? Do I stand? A lot of times I like to stand to kind of get my upper body into it, especially just for a few strokes. It changes the rhythm a little bit, and then you sit down and work it. It's a good way to make sure that you keep yourself focused on riding in that gear you're in, instead of just automatically downshifting too much. I like to feel a little bit of the gear when I'm riding it. The road kicks back up probably above 3% here. It says 3 already. I decided to sit here and downshift to keep the rhythm the same because the road kicks up. It says 4 over there. It's probably 5.5% before we get over that bump. And they happen quickly, so you feel them more than anything. My plan is to already pull until we get to, there is a right turn on the Hills Drive. That's where I plan to basically pull off unless somebody else come and take over. I took over just to keep the group moving. I don't like to be coasting and chatting on the highway. Let's ride. This is my work position where you see me high up on the hoods. When I'm really going hard, I get lower. I lower my arms at 90 degrees and my torso comes down accordingly. But this is like kind of cruising, I guess, just kind of cruising. You know, it's not easy by any means, but it's not very hard either. Put my weight on the pedals as I go over that bump. I downshift. Because the road's going up here. It says 4, my probably 5%.
Car up.
So there's a car at the corner. We're turning right. And this is where I plan to get off the front.
Clear.
We have a challenge with finding people that want to pull in this group certain times. There is no difficulty in finding people that want to attack, but we have a problem finding people that want to pull. Bob's one of the few that likes to get to the front and take his pulls. And so he comes around, nobody else comes, so I just slip in behind him. The speed bump coming up. I do that so people are aware, so they're paying attention. You don't want to hit that thing and you're not paying attention. I mean, it's not that vicious of a speed bump. It's smoother than the ones you find in most parking lots. Those are common. What we're riding here are very common in city centers and other places that want to keep the traffic calmer. They're a little more spread out, but it's still a decent bump. So you don't want to be doing hands-free riding when you hit one of those. The road starts to go up here. So this kind of riding is steady riding. That's what we're doing here, just keeping it going. It's a different kind of riding than attacking style riding. So holding the pace when it's steady, it's somewhat easier, quite a bit, than trying to keep up with somebody who's launching a lot of accelerations. That's a different kind. That's like intervals. So you need to be able to train for both based on the kind of riding you're doing. If you want to ride with people like that do criteriums and road races, you've got to be able to recover from repeated accelerations. So, you know, later in the season we'll do some here. We've done some with these guys before. When they start, we usually kind of join in, and so that's how they like to ride. They like to do intervals. Then they sit up. See, I like to do intervals, but I don't like to sit up. I like to do intervals and then keep going. Maybe, you know, at a slightly lower pace, but you're going. Because that's how the races are. The criteriums, they don't sit up. They'll attack, go around a corner, kick out of the corner, and then they may slow down, but that pace is still high. So if you're going to do events like that, that's how you have to train. You don't want to rest too low unless you're doing pure interval training. It may sound confusing, but it is. Training is a science. There are times, depending on your fitness, where you want to recover in a low zoom to teach your body how to recover. But when you're already fit, you don't need to go very low to recover. I move over to the left to catch more wind as we go down, and you see me soft pedaling. I'm gauging the distance to Bob's rear wheel, so I move over. When I start to go too far, I go back behind him here and get sucked along. I'm using the wind as my brakes. I drift back again. Then I start to pedal because it's flattening out. You want to use friction and the wind to slow you down wherever possible in the group. Brakes should not be the first choice unless you have to stop quickly. And sometimes stopping is not the best option in an emergency. Bob starts to slow down, so I just stand, keep my rhythm the same. I'm not sprinting, I just stand up to get the ride at gear. And Paulie Longa rides along, so you hear me asking, do you hear my Vittura? All I heard was the Vittura was talking. Vittura tires are just so sweet to ride. We're coming to the gate down there, so I'm backing off the powering.
You have on Vittoria? You have on Vittoria?
Yep.
The Vittoria tires have their own sound.
Come back, let the car
There's a car back, which is perfect because we don't have the code. Well, we have the code, but we can't use it on this side of the gate. There is no panel here. And there's a car on the other side, so we won't have to climb that fence this week. So I just pull off the road. But then the gate starts, so the guys continue to go. Because that car from the other side activated it. But there's a guy that's behind us, so we wait. And we're talking about the sound of my tires. That's what Paul and I are talking about. That's the kind of stuff we chat about. And I was just standing. I was not really doing anything special, and the tires were still talking. I love the simplicity of the bicycle. Simple machine. You got a bottom bracket and a derailleur, and those are the most complicated things on the machine. All the other stuff we add, the electronics and stuff, they got nothing to do with the bike. That's just extra gadgets we're carrying. The bike itself is very simple. If you have a fixie, it's even simpler. The diamond frame, that's the base of the machine that we love. So you see how everybody's bunching up now. There's no impetus to pull. So we just sit at the back here. I'm just watching to see. Just want to keep moving. Because moving time is important. Paul's getting something to eat. I just looked back to see what he was doing. He's getting the food out of the kit. It's an hour and a half into our ride. 20-something minutes with them. An hour by ourselves.
I got my cookie, man.
He said his cookie was going to fall out.
My cookie was going up.
Okay.
And,
you got it sorted?
Yeah.
It was moving up in the pocket. When you put a lot of stuff in your pocket, they fight for space. So you got to make sure they're nice and secure. A lot of the pockets on our kit have elastic around the top. So as we load them, they can hold. So you don't want to lose your stuff out here. End up having to stop at a store. You know. I carry a little more than I think I need. So we focus on everything, how our shoe feels, the bars, the gloves, everything. If it doesn't feel right, you won't have fun on the bike. Everything's important, don't ignore it. Our bikes are dialed in so we know how they should feel. When it deviates, something's off, we deal with it quickly. That's Greg's shot on the right. That's what Paul was talking about. He was on research forest waiting for the group. We didn't see much of him after this. We ride past to go up there, and we don't see him after this. I think he's just getting his base in. The group has a gap to us here. I'm keeping my eye on it to see how big it gets. I'm just watching. The road's going up and we're riding into the wind here. So I tell Paul it's time to move up. It wasn't a big gap, but I moved around because I wanted to make sure I didn't follow Lulo there. He hasn't been riding as much, and he's leaving a gap. And I talk about that all the time. If you're already out of shape and you leave a gap, you're going to work even harder. So he should be tight on this wheel. They're not going much harder, or I mean much faster than he is. But he's leaving a huge gap and catching all this wind. So then he's going to tire out even more. I don't understand why when people are out of shape, they don't focus and use the drafting and other things. That's what I was taught. You have to draft even more when you're not as fit. That's the whole point of that. But I see a lot of people doing the opposite. Experienced riders will leave a gap if the group is slower than they want to go and they want to work harder. They'll sit at the back and leave a gap so they can work, whether they're pulling or whether they're sitting in. That makes sense. But when you're not as fit, you can't afford to be wasting energy. You need to find that draft all the time. When I ride with the WCC boys, you're not going to see me sitting in the wind. I save every energy I need to be able to have fun with them because their pace is faster than I've been training at for a while. I stay behind Jerry here because I know he can close that gap. I mean, he's just trying to keep his pace down. Intentional. Randy, on the other hand, is sitting in the wind. They pulled away from him on that climb because he's lacking a bit of power. Randy has not been. That's what we're excited to see him. It's always good to see Randy. He hadn't been here riding. A lot of these guys, you can tell whether they've been riding away from the group or not when they show up and you see. You can tell. But then they seem to forget that their fitness is down and they sit in the wind and they do stuff like he was chatting with Jerry in the wind. I mentioned. There's Randy here in front of me. So when you're not as fit, don't waste your energy when you get with the group. We're waiting for a car, the pickup truck, but then he ends up stopping for us. He's coming from the right, off camera. And Paul already turned, but the rest of us waited, so I will ride up and tell Paul because it's time to go. I said, all right, my brother, and he knew because he was waiting. Said, let's go. It's time to go.
Slow down for us.
Yeah.
The car.
The truck that stopped for us will come by shortly. There he is. I'm keeping my eye on the front of this group. I want to make sure we don't lollygag on this road. We need to ride. So even though I had just taken a long pull back there in the neighborhood, I go ahead and start moving to the front here. Because they're chatting up here. It's not the time to talk. We came to ride. So Randy is once again here, and in a little while you will see him. I think he was chatting with Dan, and then I end up going around him. Right there, they start talking. Bob's off the front. It's not the time to talk. It's the time to tighten up the line, so we can look like we know what we're doing. So you see me go around. You will see me go around them because I've realized they're chatting. And look at the gap. The gap's opening. So I'll go around them. And ride up to these guys. I check my rear view mirror there. When you see me look down to the left like that, I'm glancing at it. We get there just as the road begins to go up. This Keenan Cutoff road, you get a good workout here. I keep my momentum the same. I go around him because Bob's slowing down. I don't have time for this. I just go around him. And Paul knows. He can tell by my body language. We need to ride. It's not the time to mess around. These things are just, 2%, 1 to 3%. You don't need to be downshifting 4 or 5 gears. You need to work. Got to let your legs hurt. It's the only way you're going to get stronger. So it's time to ride. So I get to the front and settle into a groove here. And Scott had mentioned last week, during last week's ride, he said it was really cool not to wonder who was going to pull. Because, I took long pulls last week. Mike S5 took long pulls. It's nice when everybody just comes through and gets their cut, as opposed to everybody wanting to sit in so they can sprint later. Road goes up, I downshift and use my cadence to keep the speed or the effort close. The wind's blowing from the right. I can feel it. There's a lot of little rocks and stuff over there. I just use the road here. I can see there's no traffic, and if they are, they'll move over. Look at this road. It's quiet. We're going downhill here slightly, so the speed picks up. I shift up accordingly to keep my rhythm in the same range. And you can see the road begins to go up again. All I'm focusing on is keeping the effort the same. So the same effort here, all of a sudden that got us up that hill, we'll get close to 40 kilometers an hour. I'm more concerned about keeping it smooth, but quick. I'm in a 53.17, something like that. See how much room that truck gives us? Those guys are serious drivers. They don't mess around on the road. I start to enjoy the rhythm here. I lower my body down. Paul's adjusting the camera so he can have more flexibility. I get in the drops and we start rocking and rolling. And I'm focusing on making sure all my muscles are doing the work, not just my quadriceps. The big muscles in the back of my legs. I make sure they're working. Because we got a long day here. So what's on my mind at this point is back off right here. See my cadence go up. The road's going up a little bit. I want to make sure we don't stop. So I don't want to go so hard to where everybody says, oh, we need to take a break. I want to keep the group moving because we're approaching Highway 149 up there, that stop sign. A lot of times these guys like to stop on the left at that gas station that they're building. And it's not open yet, but there's a porta potty there. They usually like to stop there for health breaks or whatever. I point right so they know I'm not stopping. And I see a car coming, I let them know it's coming because we're going to use the shoulder. It's far enough away. The car's left, but I turned because the reason I did this is I want them to know we're going. There's no stopping happening on that corner. That's what that was about. So the car's coming, I'm staying on the shoulder, and I make sure Paul's there. I look behind, everybody's turning good, so we start to go. And some people need to take a break or whatever, but all of a sudden, for some reason, we start getting a gap here. And you'll see that play out. That's that trash can. I'm looking for traffic. There's cars coming, so I didn't want it to swing out. This guy always leaves that trash can, that particular house, every time you come out on Saturday. His can's out on the street. So we start the ride. It goes downhill here. We're going directly into the wind. You can hear it. We dubbed it, but it's blowing. That's why it did not warm up. The wind was coming out of the north the entire day. So everybody's here. Let's see, what's his name? Bob, and then that's Mike S5 behind Bob. That's what I wanted, to just keep the group moving. When Mo rides with us, he says the same thing. You know, let's go, no stopping, let's go. Come on. He does that a lot. You get the ride over with, go do something else with the rest of the day. I dropped my gearing here. This road goes up and we're going into the wind, and it's pretty steep here. It probably gets to like 5.5%. And it's long. We're climbing here. And since it's long, I'm not doing triple digit spinning right now. There's not really an acceleration per se. I'm just keeping a tempo that will keep my legs loose. It's gravel. A lot of crap on the side of the road. It washes down when it rains, you know. I'm looking for traffic. When it's clear, I'm going to move over because we're turning left up there. So I'm looking in my mirror. I can see them. Once it's clear, I move over and I let them know.
Car up.
There's a car up turning out of the subdivision. So
Clear.
we always look over that hill because it's a blind hill on the opposite side. So right here, I sit up a bit because there's a gap, and I'm not sure why. And this road goes downhill right here. When you come in the other way, it's a nice little bump. But you can see we're holding 40K without pedaling. So I expected everybody to be here. And we look back. Paul's going to flip the camera around a little bit.
Yep.
And I just want to keep the effort going. Because the effort here is a little lower than what I was holding even on Keenan Cutoff. I look in my mirror, I can see them messing around back there. Paul's going to turn the camera around, you'll see what I'm talking about. See, they just spread out across the road. Nobody wants to pull. There's no pace line like they're visiting. And we just keep riding. I figure they want to ride with us, they're going to have to work. We're not going to make it easy for them. We're just going to keep it right in our endurance zone like we usually ride. They just intentionally turn off the pace. They do that a lot and waste a lot of time on the highway. That's the stuff that pisses off drivers. You'll spread out across the road going nowhere. It's time to ride. When you see WCC boys, they're in a pace line. They're not messing around. So we're going to ride. Let's ride. And Jerry's back there just sitting and watching them because he knows they stop a lot. And he's taking it easy, but he's watching to see what they're doing. He didn't come to ride today. So I just decided to start riding here. I said, okay, they'll catch us. They'll have to work. These dogs, this particular house, other people have that dog secure. Those guys keep coming loose. I didn't want them to get in front of me. We yell at them to freeze them. And then for some reason, we keep getting slowed down by different things. All of a sudden, some guy's backing out of the driveway. And so he starts to back out. We want to make sure he sees us. Because I've got my front light on since it's a cloudy day. There he is. And so I put my arm out, I move over, and I wave, and he sees us. Because Paul said stop. He sees us. We didn't want to stop. We want these guys to ride so we can ride instead of visiting on the highway. Let's ride. Listen to that wind. That's what we're working with here. got to be able to carry a reasonable gear even when the road goes up or it's a little windy. You got to be, strengthen your legs. I do all my strength work on the bike. If you look at my feet, I am pulling up actively. That's not passive stuff. It's muscle memory, years of training. My legs know to come back up and not sit there carrying a free ride against the other leg. They're sitting back there messing around. Nobody wants to pull. That's the problem with that group. Nobody wants to come to the front and pull. Everybody wants to be sitting around acting cute. So they're going to have to work together. I don't know who pulled them back. But when they catch up, you will see Rick take off. And you hear me tell Paul to back off. Paul starts to go and I tell him, steady, she goes, back off. Don't overexert yourself right now. Because from the time the hill starts, we've got about probably 6 kilometers, maybe less. It's probably 6 or 7 kilometers to the end of where the road ends. I will clock it the next time I'm out there. I can see them in the distance every time I look in the mirror, and all I'm doing is keeping the pace the same what we're doing on Keenan Cutoff. A little above zone 3, right about close to sweet spot. That's where we're riding. So right here, I guess Rick pulled him. So Rick comes, he goes around, I accelerate just a little. That's Dan on the left. So they're here, and the road kicks up. This is at 9%. I don't get too excited. I keep my gears low right here. That's taxing my aerobic system. Rick is in a big gear. I move to the left. And I just stay, just same gear I'm in, just spinning it. So I watch, and I'm like, I don't know. This is the guy who was talking about that threw up on one ride 2 years ago. And I watch him, I said, nah, he's not going to be able to sustain that. There's no point. So I think here I tell Paul to back. Paul was going to come. You see the camera pass me? Paul was coming up alongside me. I told him I said, steady she goes. In a little bit, you will see me use my right hand to tell Paul once again, just keep it steady. Don't worry about it. Let him sit out there. Let him fry. I wanted to see if anyone else would have gone with him because they all rode together. And so if you all rode together, why is he the only one going? Why is nobody else coming through? This is what I talk about. Nobody wants to pull. But everybody wants to attack. Nobody's going to pull you to a line in competition for you to attack unless it's your teammate. So you got to be able to put your nose out in the wind. So I just keep my pace the same. I said, I'm going to let Rick pull away until someone else comes around. That's what I'm thinking here. You see me do my hand for Paul. Yeah, that's for Paul. I just said, just relax. He knows. Because he was going to go. And I was like, no, it's too early. So Rick starts to pull away. I figure it won't be long before they decide they're going to have to come to the front because I act like I'm not pulling him back. There's no reason why I should pull them. I've been pulling the entire part of the ride pretty much. So they want to ride with Rick. They're going to have to come to the front and go up there. The thing is his power's already down. I'm watching. You can't see his pedaling. I'm watching his action up there, and he's already paying for that price. He's paying the price for that move on that 9% climb. I don't think he realized that this road is up and down like it is. He's struggling up there. So this is Scott. Scott comes, I accelerate a little, I sit on him. My attitude, let's see what he can do. But he's not really firing that much. And you'll see in a little bit, Mike with the gravel bike, the guy I like to ride a gravel bike, will come around. So I just go with the fastest wheel, basically right now. That's all I'm looking. I want somebody else to do the work because they all chase together, and I'm not gonna pull them up to him. If he made the attack they wanted to go, they should have gone with him when he went. But they know better. They know this road does not give up. It keeps coming back at you. As the Europeans say, thick and fast. Do you see me soft pedaling? I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen. I'm waiting for moves. When the next move goes, Scott will be cooked. He will have nothing left. You will just see him fall out of the picture. Just keep that in mind. The same thing will happen to Rick. When we pass Rick, you will see him on the hill trying to do something. He will be done. He has nothing. He can't respond. I was working in the 170 beats per minute range. You can see that my body's like 156. This is like, it's gotten very easy. I'm just waiting to see if anybody, I could go up to him, but I'm not going to spend the energy here. I'm going to wait to see what someone else does. I want to see who else is going to make a move. So sometimes you have to be patient because cycling is all about timing. So Mike goes, I move over, his wheels faster. Look at my watts, almost 650 watts. Get up to him. That's why you have to know what you're doing and know when to go. I'm using a large gear and I'm putting down the power. And right here the power's off. See, it dropped to like 2 something. And I just glide. I'm just gliding with his wheel. Soft pedal there. We're already close to Rick. And what I don't understand is why he gets behind Rick. Because Rick is not doing anything up. Rick is cooked. His legs are dead. He's not doing anything. We come up. This is a downhill. He's not even pedaling much. And then so I watch. I say, okay, let me see who else will go. Now we got these boys riding. That was the whole point. Now we're riding. And so that was my goal. Let's get us riding. Okay, so Dan goes. Now watch my watts. That's Mike S5. Just sit on Mike because he moves over. I was going to go, but then he moved left. And then I'll go ahead and just put the hammer 700 and something watts initially. You've got to have that. You got to be able to do these repeats. Like I said, thick and fast. Got to be able to go boom, boom, boom. And Dan's move did not go anywhere. So we're there real quickly, and then I'm soft pedaling again at 200 watts. You see? I don't really want to attack anybody here. I just want to sit in and see what they do. That's all this is about. I wanted to get the group going. So if this was like racing per se, this would be a perfect point to do an attack. But I wouldn't do it here on a downhill. I would wait for the next hill. Now, why would this be a good point? When we passed Rick over there, he was done. We didn't see him again until this was over. He could not go with the moves. This would be a good place to make a subsequent attack because there's been a couple of moves. I mean, one of them was kind of weak, but a couple of moves. So here, on this climb again, that's the place to launch another attack right here. You see the watts go up a little bit, not as much, but you go again because there are a couple more climbs before we get to the end. And that's what you do. After there's been a few moves, when the group tries to catch his breath, that's when you counterattack. Now, don't get me wrong, it's hard for everybody, but what's the point of going when it's easy? You want to go when it's hard. So right now it's settled down, so this is not as hard as it would be in a race because really the first few moves were decent, but the rest of this is that we're just sitting and riding along. This is kind of what I wanted. I wanted us to keep moving, and so we're moving, and it's fine. There's a truck parked on the right, so we move over. The work truck. They're spraying that grass, the growing stuff on the edge of the road, so once they grow in, it won't wash away as often or as easily. So those who are gone above their heads, they're not here. So Dan pulls off, and Mike S5 takes over. And I think Dan gets behind Paulie Longa, so it's just Dan, Paulie Longa, myself. Let's see. So there's 5 of us here. That's it. So you have to temper your efforts. If Rick hadn't gotten excited, he may have been able to sit in with us, but he wanted to put on a show, and he paid the price. You have to know your limitations. And your capabilities. So at this point here now, I decided to work my engine harder without going off the front by keeping my cadence up. So later in the season, in this similar situation, you always see some attacks, some real attacks. These are considered to just be surges. Especially when we visit WCC, there's a whole different pace. It's just fast, period. And sometimes you can't even go off the front. It's so fast. So I just stay at a sweet spot, sitting in, spinning. So whenever the road goes up, you will see me use a high cadence because I want to stress my aerobic system. Keeps my legs fresh, but it stresses the cardiovascular system. I'll go ahead and just stand to get over the climb. The ride's over. There's a stop sign right there. I just pull out. Want to thank all our channel members. For supporting the channel. So we pull off here, we turn off the camera, and we basically, they're going to go to a store and stop about 3 kilometers from here. We head southwest and go out to
Legend,
Spring
since
Creek.
We don't have anybody to take our picture, we decided to just pose here. Spring Creek Park, Harris County.
Here we go.
We're in Tomball, Texas.
The backyard of Mr. Tangler.
Robert Tangler's neighborhood. So we're gonna ride our park. We haven't been here in ages. And we used to come out here and ride these little climbs. So we're gonna go and do a reconnaissance of our climb. Tomball, Texas. You gotta say that with a drawl. Tomball, Texas. You all run a respectable business. I won't have to come be hassling y'all, you hear? That's Reggie Hammond from 48 Hours.
Eddie Murphy played that character.
There's a new sheriff in town. And his name is Reggie. We're going this
Y'all
way.
be cool.
Y'all be cool. Let's go explore.
48 Hours, a movie with
This is
Eddie
so cool.
Murphy
We haven't
and
been here
Nick
in ages.
Nolte.
Remember we stopped over there with Frankie?
It was cool to come back here. As
People are
Robert
out. Look at
Tangler
that guy
noted
driving
on
the
Strava, the ride
out and
was
about.
very
Living it up.
nostalgic.
There's a bird running.
I will be visiting the park more often now that I realized that climb was actually 9 point something %.
There's a lot of people out here today. Yeah. This is Texas. Everybody out enjoying the weather. It's about probably 12 or 13 Celsius. And it's not supposed to warm up much. North end of park closes at dark. So my brother and I are visiting our old neck of the woods. Let's come out here with uno más cerveza. Oh man. Huh? Yes, yes. Yeah, that's fine. We ain't breaking no laws. The speed limit is 20. So 32 kilometers an hour is the official speed limit in park designated areas only. This is an archery range. I didn't know they had. This is new. Yeah, they just named this. This is an archery range. There wasn't one here. Yeah, that looks new. Look at that.
Look, even this is new.
Yeah. That's like a little rest area. They're not done yet.
Yeah, those are resting, man.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't look like it's completed. It's in progress. So they're improving the park. We got another constable up there. That must be an activity today or something. How you guys doing? This is like I don't remember the percentage of this climb, but they used to kick our butts. We used to come up here and be racing each other.
We used to get away from the bump.
Yeah, Bob used to say, good job. I'm gonna put it in a small chain ring. I'm just gonna ride it. Bob, I wanna see what the grade is. Oh yeah, no wonder. 9.7. I hope the camera gets it for the legends. It was 9.7 right there. Oh, you know, it's amazing. We didn't used to display our grade back then, remember? We would just ride it. Now it's 9.1. No wonder Bob would be killing himself up here. And right about here, he would say, good job. And we keep going. 9.0 right here. This thing, we're gonna have to keep coming back here. We don't need to go to Spring Branch Road. This 9% climb, this is long enough. You can do repeats on it. I used to come out here and do repeats in the park. Just sometimes it gets crowded in here. Too many cars. We did a new route today, legends, and ended up on our side of town and decided to visit our old way. Spring Branch Park. And right about here it used to be real sketchy. Used to be sketchy. There's always debris in that corner.
Yeah.
This is when people suffering from that effort. But
You were opening the gap.
I used to work these boys because they were scared to turn.
Yeah.
Right here, start going.
Right here.
Uh-huh. They were opening gaps on those boys. That was funny. It was a good work. And you know, this park is still a good place to come and work out. I did not realize it was above 9%, my brother. Yeah. Because I would definitely ride out here and do loops again. I used to come out here and do repeats. No wonder when I would attack on this side, it was easier. Because this is 9, that's probably barely 3 to 4. And we'll check.
When you come out of here and you go straight, you want to go back.
Yeah.
The road it's going to work you because it's not flat.
Yes, when you're leaving the park, it's a bump. Yeah. Alan used to attack out of the park there. I'm gonna slow down for this thing. I don't want to tear up my wheels. The speed bump. The constables here to make sure people behave themselves, I guess. I mean,
Imagine if we were coming
with those guys? No, I mean, as long as we don't go above 32K, but I think it was the problem was that stop sign up there, we never stopped for it.
Yeah.
This says, what's the grade? Okay, now it says 0.5, 1.2. Come on.
Yeah.
0.6, 1.7, 2.1. I want to see what it gets. 3.6, 4.2. I don't see it being more than 5. 4 point. Yeah, now it's dropped back to 3. So yeah, no wonder it felt easier after that one, because that one's 3 times the effort, the gradient. 9%. Didn't realize it was that steep.
But it's long.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's almost as long as a spring branch climb. So what I'm saying is, we don't have to ride way out there to ride a 9er. We got a 9er right here. This is what you're talking about. They're not done yet. The new rest area. It's nice. So this is 2. It backs off here. Where that truck is, it kicks back up. 3.6 right here. Well, all the stuff we've been riding, this feels easy. 5. Right there on that little bump. All right, legends, we just wanted to share with you guys. This is our old haunts. And so today was good to kind of visit it.